A woman who learns to sit with herself in silence becomes the most unpredictable force in the room. Not because she intends to dominate, but because she no longer needs to. Silence in a noisy world is misunderstood. It is often mistaken for weakness. But there is a kind of silence that is not born of suppression, but of strength.
Calm doesn't mean passive, it means powerful. When you hold your center, the room shifts without you having to raise your voice.
It's the peace that enters when you no longer react to every shift in another person's mood. It is the clarity that rises when your emotions are no longer dictated by what someone did or didn't say. Most women are trained to over-express, to over-explain, to always give context to their boundaries, until they realize that silence itself is the boundary. When a woman turns inward, not out of fear, but out of choice, she activates a deeper form of respect. People feel it. They may not be able to name it, but they sense it. And when you begin focusing on yourself, not in selfishness, but in stillness, everything misplaced starts falling back into place.
That's the beauty of calm energy. It doesn't chase validation, it creates it. People feel your respect because you've already given it to yourself.
The opposite is real. The woman who focuses on herself is not selfish. She is self-aware, and self-awareness is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Without it, we end up performing roles instead of being present. We absorb moods, mirror dysfunctions, and confuse emotional over-availability with love. But when we are centered within, we can discern between what belongs to us and what doesn't. We no longer take things personally. We stop rescuing people from lessons they are meant to learn. One of the most misunderstood aspects of this journey is the practice of silence. Not the silence of avoidance or passive aggression, but the silence of presence. A deliberate, grounded quiet that listens more than it speaks. That observes without rushing to intervene. That chooses stillness over unnecessary reaction. In this kind of silence, a woman becomes untouchable. Not because she's withdrawn, but because she's anchored. There is something deeply powerful about a woman who does not rush to fill the silence. In an argument, she does not need to be louder to be heard. In relationships, she does not over-explain to earn space. Her calm becomes her clarity, and her silence becomes her boundary.
Silence is not emptiness, it's clarity. The moment you choose calm over reaction, you reclaim your rhythm and your influence.
Realizations a woman can have is this: not everything requires your energy. Not every message needs a response. Not every misunderstanding needs clarification. Not every question deserves an answer. The moment you realize that your presence is enough, you begin to conserve your energy for what truly matters. This kind of self-focus is not a destination, it's a daily practice. A return, again and again, to the present moment, to the breath, to the truth that you don't have to chase what aligns with you. You attract it by being aligned, and so the silence continues, not as an escape from the world, but as a deeper way of engaging with it, with clarity, with discernment, with grace. A woman who focuses on herself and stays silent does not disappear. She becomes more visible than ever, not in noise, but in essence, and the world cannot help but rearrange around her. A woman who learns to master her emotions is not just in control. She is free, free from the chains of overreaction, free from the cycles of regret, and free from the grip of patterns that once dictated her responses. Emotional sovereignty is not about being unfeeling. It's about not being owned by every passing feeling. It's knowing that you can feel deeply and still respond wisely. You can be hurt and still act from alignment. You can feel love, grief, anger, confusion, and still remain grounded in your values. Many people believe emotions are either something to be expressed impulsively or something to be suppressed entirely. But both extremes lead to inner imbalance. One makes you a slave to your reactions, the other disconnects you from yourself. True emotional power lies in the space between impulse and stillness. It is the cultivated ability to feel everything and yet not be consumed by anything. Emotional sovereignty is not achieved by force. It is practiced through daily attention, through the habit of awareness, through the discipline of self-honesty. It is cultivated in quiet moments when no one is watching, where you choose to observe rather than indulge the narrative. You choose to breathe instead of blame, to inquire instead of accuse. And this kind of presence doesn't just benefit your relationships with others. It deepens your relationship with yourself. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop second guessing every decision. You no longer need to crowdsource your worth or use someone's love as proof of your value. You begin to carry yourself with a quiet assurance. One that says, I know who I am, I know what I feel, and I will no longer abandon myself for comfort or approval. This leads naturally into another kind of transformation, the power of embodied stillness. Not only does a woman's emotional mastery radiate through her words, or lack of them, but it speaks even more loudly through her presence, through how she moves, how she sits, how she breathes, how she listens, and most importantly, how she holds herself when no one else is holding her. The body is not just a vessel, it is a language. It tells others how to treat you before you speak. Posture, tone, eye contact. These are not just social cues, they are energetic signatures. They communicate whether you are grounded or scattered, open or guarded, calm or reactive. When a woman walks into a room with presence, she does not have to announce her strength. It is felt. It is not the presence that demands attention. It is the presence that holds attention. This doesn't come from performing confidence. It comes from cultivating inner alignment.
Presence speaks louder than performance. The way you breathe, move, and carry yourself is a language the world cannot ignore.
When there is inner disorder, chaos seems to find us no matter how much we run from it. But when there is inner peace, things around us begin to quiet down. Not because the world changes, but because our relationship with it transforms. Imagine a woman who carries unresolved grief in her heart. She may look composed, even smile in public, but something in her frequency speaks of heaviness. Without realizing it, she attracts partners who are emotionally unavailable, mirroring back her own disconnect. Or think of a woman filled with self-doubt. She may speak words of affirmation, but her energy subtly communicates hesitation. And so she finds herself in dynamics where her boundaries are tested, her voice is overlooked, her confidence is questioned. This is not to blame, but to awaken. The mirror effect is not punishment, it is revelation. Life keeps showing us through others what we still need to address within. When you begin to center yourself in truth, not performance, not fear, but truth, everything around you becomes clearer. Not easier, but clearer. A woman once shared how she kept ending up in relationships where she felt used. Every man she dated seemed charming at first, but would later become cold, controlling, or indifferent. At first, she blamed them. Then she blamed herself. But after deep reflection, she realized she was operating from a subconscious belief that her worth was transactional, that love had to be earned through effort. She was overgiving, over-explaining, and overextending herself in hopes of receiving scraps of affection. Her energy was saying, "Please see me," even when her words said, "I'm fine." When she stopped trying to fix others and turned inward, things changed. She began to sit in silence more often, to listen to her own breath, to observe her emotional patterns. She didn't try to be liked. She tried to be honest. She didn't rush into intimacy. She watched people slowly. And she realized something profound. When she became emotionally consistent with herself, people could no longer manipulate her. She stopped attracting chaos. Her stillness began to act as a filter. The mirror effect doesn't just reveal what is broken. It reveals what is possible. It is wisdom. It allows energy to recalibrate. It reveals who is willing to meet you where you are. It filters out the noise so you can hear your intuition. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches you that you are not responsible for carrying relationships alone. A woman who knows when to withdraw is a woman who knows her worth. She is not afraid of being alone because she is not lonely in herself. She doesn't fear silence because silence is where she hears her truth most clearly. She doesn't chase answers because she knows the right questions will always bring the answers in time. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop trying to force outcomes. You begin to trust the unfolding. You begin to notice how much energy you used to waste trying to make others see, make them care, make them stay. And in letting go, you reclaim all that energy for your own growth, for your own healing, for your own joy. Some people will call this selfish. Let them, because they've never tasted the kind of self-respect that comes from refusing to betray yourself. Others may call you distant, but what they're really feeling is your energetic boundary, the space you now protect like sacred ground. When you withdraw, not as punishment, but as protection, you allow space for clarity to breathe. And clarity is what guides wise action. It tells you when to stay, when to go, when to speak, and when to let silence do the talking. It teaches you that your presence is not something to offer lightly. It is a gift, a sacred force, and it must be given where it is valued. The woman who practices strategic withdrawal becomes magnetic, not because she's mysterious, but because she's whole. People are drawn to her stillness, her integrity, her strength. But not everyone will be ready for it. And that's okay, because she no longer lives to be understood by everyone. She lives to be true to herself. And from that truth, everything else begins to align. Not always immediately, not always without challenge, but always with purpose. Because life supports those who walk in alignment. It clears paths for the woman who is brave enough to walk alone when needed, and wise enough to know when to return.
Calm is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the art of letting go of noise so that everything aligned with your peace finds its way to you. And if this message speaks to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more calm, powerful mindsets that help you win in every aspect of life.